All right. We are in it. There are four teams left in the college basketball world playing for a national championship this coming weekend in San Antonio. And the Auburn Tigers are one of them. Thank God. Um, that incredible stuff. Yeah, I am through the roof. Matt, it's looking like it's going to be just me and you tonight, and William Luke should maybe appearing at some point. But haven't heard from Jacob, so maybe he'll wake up and jump in here. But otherwise, man, it's just the two of us, and we'll be sending everybody off into the Final Four. So as a fan of the back-to-back national champions, where unfortunately you almost, but did not get to see your team play for a spot in the Final Four this year. I'm sure you'll sleep fine at night with your back-to-back national championships.
Yes,
Um,
as Dan Hurley told Alex Caravan after losing at Villanova, yeah. But
yeah,
hey, always good for good basketball. If UConn's not going to be in it, you might as well see the four best teams in the sport playing for
guess
the
this is the
title.
first time in a couple years that you've gotten to watch the rest of the tournament as like a unbiased observer.
Yeah, it's
Um,
it's a different perspective. I mean, the it's a weird scenario, especially because this is probably the first really good Duke team of my life where I've never really I don't have anything negative to say about this Duke team or anything. It's probably because it's not coached by Coach K, but
yeah,
um
honestly,
yeah,
the amount of the I feel that way too. Like I don't have the same juice of like hate level for
yeah,
Duke. It's the same with Kentucky with Mark Pope now
sure.
versus
Yeah.
Cal. Like I feel the same way. Like it's that hate is able to subside a little bit when you got a little less of a prick at the top of
Sure.
things. Like
And it's good for the sport now. You got one of these teams, one of these coaches, the first time national champion. Um, all of them are pretty especially John Shire and Todd Golden are pretty young in their coaching careers. Talked about today over text about, how much longer Bruce Pearl's probably gonna do this. So this was a special one for him today, I'm sure.
oh yeah, I mean, and just I feel like we have a great storyline set up now with these four teams where it's like number one, there are four teams, as I mentioned to you before we came on, that are top 10 all-time teams at KenPom, all four of
Yeah,
these teams, which
crazy.
is just absurd. Yeah. And so like you have the four best teams in the nation, and you have this great clash of like two young up and coming star coaches of yes, I will be on a roll if Auburn wins, and we will be down in San Antonio this weekend. We're making the trek. So um but yeah, you got two just great young coaches, up and comers who are going to be the faces of the sport for years to come, and Todd Golden and John Shire. And then you have two uh, older guys who are probably I think both of them are going to coach for a few more years. I don't think either of them are retiring after
Yeah, I
this year or
definitely
next
think they
year
both
again.
have a lot of juice still. Samson especially because, the Indiana stuff, he took a lot of years off. So
Same with
yeah,
Bruce with the Tennessee stuff. They
yeah,
both
that's
kind of
true.
had
So
similar like
yeah, ridiculous
trajectories to get where they
setbacks.
are.
Yeah. So uh yeah, I could see them both coaching for a while now.
Which Bruce it's crazy because like it was a barbecue for Bruce Pearl, and then Kelvin's was like he made too many phone calls.
Yeah.
Like just yeah, absolute
Stuff that would
insanity
never
when you
fly today. Yeah, they would just
yeah.
be like, okay, and yeah. So
It's crazy, and like these are, and we had a like we were talking a little bit about it over text before we came on here. Like two guys that I definitely and I guess we can talk about that to start here. Like Hall of Fame discussion, guys. And like I think you can easily make the case for both of them to be Hall of Famers, especially like when you look at Kelvin Sampson has over 700 wins, and
yeah.
uh and Bruce has almost 500, and Bruce also coached at D2 for a long time, so those obviously don't count towards his total. Um, yeah, he got a little bit of a later start than some of these guys did. So like the win and exact numbers aren't going to be there for Bruce, but like now both of these guys are going to be heading to San Antonio next week to coach in their second Final Four, um, which like having these great careers and now having two Final Fours to show for it, and then just you draw the parallels between Bruce and Kelvin Sampson even more, where they both took over just absolute dumpster fires of programs when they got there, and like they've both done amazing reclamation projects like at Houston and Auburn respectively to get them in this position to go to two Final Fours and 6 years for Bruce and two Final Fours and 4 years for Kelvin. Um, so yeah, I think you got some great storylines and a great clash of youth versus experience with these coaches and the stories we'll have in the Final Four.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, that story alone, a lot of that's not on the court related, but it's certainly one of the more compelling storylines because those will be things that'll be able to be talked about years down the road. And yeah, I mean, for their Hall of Fame cases, it's different from college basketball Hall of Fame to basketball Hall of Fame. Basketball Hall of Fame seems to induct those types of coaches like immediately. College basketball Hall of Fame takes a little more time. So yeah, it's I think both those coaches have really unique paths to where they've gotten to now. Sampson is the reason Houston is in the Big 12, and um, just from a financial standpoint, has done a ton for that university. He's recruited pretty well, but not like over the top well per se. And they're super selective about the type of players that they bring into their program. And yeah, I mean, he's one of those coaches as well that you always know what you're going to get with the Kelvin Sampson coach team. A very specific style. They impose their will on every team they play. It's just kind of one of those things you know what you're getting with him, and that's kind of one of the trademarks of a great coach. They have an identity with their teams, and no matter who's wearing the uniform, the team's always going to play deep into March with him. And with Bruce, it's a much more different, like laid back, kind of looser approach, I would say, with him and his teams. Um, but yeah, it's basically it comes down to in the case of Kelvin's right. I think he's 25th all time in all time wins as a coach. He's a couple ahead of Adolph Rupp now, and he's in that zone where like he's probably going to be there just because of his years of service and the amount of wins he has alone, and now including the Final Fours. Now that he's got three of them, um, two at Houston and the one at Oklahoma, he's
I didn't realize he went
probably
to one at
yeah,
Oklahoma. But
he went to one, and I think the 2000 Final Four he took Oklahoma there. But yeah, so he's got three to his name. Um, Bruce is kind of in the like the John Beeline, like Bill Guthridge type of category. Those like these really great coaches who have made two Final Fours. Um, like Mark Few's in there, uh, Lon Kruger's in there. Um, and I think Lon Kruger might be in the College Basketball Hall of Fame. Jim Larinaga, Thad Matta has two Final Fours as well. So I guess if if those coaches are going to be um, Hall of Fame coaches, if you consider them Hall of Fame coaches, then Bruce Pearl would be in that category as well, you would think. So yeah, I would say that they still have a ways to go to building legacies. I think it will be better than what it is at this moment today. But yeah, I could, I wouldn't be horribly opposed to either of those coaches being considered Hall of Fame coaches. But I do think it's a much tougher case for Bruce than for Kelvin because Kelvin obviously has the edge in Final Fours and he's got the all-time wins over Bruce. But I'm certainly here to, open to hear your case. I'm sure which you have prepared.
how does and like this question like I'm genuinely asking you because I don't know like off the top of my head what guys are an example of this, but like how does Bruce's success, because I believe he won one or multiple D2 national championships. I'd need to do further research to verify that, but I know he had a ton of success coaching at the D2 level, and it's like that doesn't like when you look at the official wins list and everything, like that doesn't count. But like when you're evaluating like a Hall of Fame resume for college basketball or basketball in general, like how does that success at the D2 level factor into that? Because I know Bruce, like I don't have his exact numbers at D2 like here, but I know he was a very successful coach at the D2 level before he took that job at Milwaukee back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, it's I don't know how the College Basketball Hall of Fame takes that stuff into consideration, but I know like Basketball Hall of Fame, they take everything. That's like where Bob Hurley's in there, is the greatest high school coach of all time. Dean Smith, uh, he's got like 11 Final Fours. He was inducted into Basketball Hall of Fame in 1983. He was inducted to the College Basketball Hall of Fame in 2006, years after he was done coaching. So they seem a little more like, you know, they'll make you wait a little more. As for the coaches who have like, D2 experience, that type of thing, I don't know if it's something that I'm sure it will help his case. If he were to have been a championship winning coach, especially, I think that's one of the things that they look for and evaluate. So I don't have his, Division II accomplishments right in front of me. But yeah, that would be a question definitely for someone who knows his college career a little better than I do. But yeah, I think that like College Basketball Hall of Fame hasn't been around very long either. Dean Smith might have been inducted in 2006 because it might have been established around then. Um, but yeah, I mean, like Rick Byrd for Belmont, he used to be the Belmont coach for years. He's got over 800 wins to his name. Um, I don't know if Belmont was Division I his entirety of coaching there. So I'm not entirely sure if that kind of contributed to anything there, but I know he was like big time NAIA coach. Um, so I don't know if Belmont was Division I, so that might have helped his case. But yeah, I'm sure it wouldn't hurt. Like if he was a championship winning coach at the Division II or NAIA or Division III level, I would say that probably enhances his case a little more, but it's probably not the same as like I would assume like Division I wins or NCAA tournament wins or Final Fours, that kind of thing. It's not the same. I don't think it's held in the same regard.
Now, how does this discussion change for either of these two, in your opinion? Like, if it is where it is now, if next Monday one of these two coaches, Kelvin Sampson or Bruce Pearl, is cutting down the nets in San Antonio, like, how that's obviously a huge step towards that case. Like, in your opinion, for either of those two, like, it sounds like you think Kelvin's a little closer to it than Bruce, which is fair because he has 300 some more wins than Bruce does. But, like, if either of them are to win a national championship, like does that put them over the top for you? Do you still think they would have work to do after that? Like, do you think it's a situation where like Bruce or Kelvin like are a national championship away from being a surefire Hall of Famer?
Yeah, I think I think for Kelvin, I think a national championship for him would seal the deal. I think that would, if he's not already, if the deal's not already sealed for him, winning a national championship would almost certainly do it. For Bruce, I think so as well. I think, he wouldn't be considered a fluky coach or like kind of how people considered Tubby Smith to be at Kentucky. Um, when he inherited the Pitino teams and then won a national championship and then kind of didn't really do a ton after that. Um, I think he would probably find his way.
I got
It
a
just
run.
what's that?
I got a rundown for you, by the way.
Nice.
Bruce Pearl he left USI after 9 years with a 231-46 record, and was named the NABC Division II Coach of the Year and won the national championship. Just wanted
Okay.
to add that for context for the actual numbers we were wondering about. So that's 231 wins and a national
Okay.
championship at the D2 level, if that influences your opinion at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. I mean, that certainly wouldn't hurt the case. Yeah, winning a national championship just puts you in completely different rarefied air. That kind of, that's who the all-time greats are, and that's kind of, there are only like a few all-time great coaches who you would really put in some kind of discussion without national championships, and it's very few. Like, it's pretty much just like Brad Stevens and take your pick of any number of coaches from the 80s or 90s who got close and couldn't do it. So yeah, I think that helps. I think that definitely helps. I think navigating the SEC how he has also, and I think kind of like being a character of the sport really helps your case as well. There are some coaches who really just historically on a spreadsheet, we're not like all time great coaches, but all those coaches from the old Big East, um, they Luke Carnesecca, for example, God rest his soul. I don't want to be like Stephen A. Smith here, calling out Nolan Richardson for being dead when he very much is alive. But yeah, I think that yeah,
Jesus.
that was crazy. I was like, excuse me? Are we sure that's factual?
To add
And
to your
he came on
character
and
of the
said,
sport, like I think Jerry Tarkanian would be an example of that. Like,
yeah, Tark was a good one. Pretty much that early 90s run he had, just, and his kind of iconic teams. And yeah, I think he would be winning a national championship does kind of elevate you to that. And, for him, I don't think it matters to him. Like, I think Bruce Pearl's already in a situation, he's the greatest Auburn basketball coach of all time. Um, he is probably moving in the direction of being the greatest Auburn coach, period, ever, football or basketball.
I I
Um,
got an accolade too. It's like when you consider what he did at Tennessee and Auburn, or like obviously like Billy Donovan's gonna be the first name here, but like he has to be up there for greatest SEC coach of all time in totality. Like I think Billy Donovan would take that mantle, and like there's
yes,
some other like Cal obviously, but I mean he wasn't at Kentucky like that
yeah,
long.
Billy
I think to be
Donovan,
in that discussion.
Patino, Cal, those would probably be the top three SEC coaches. And yeah, I mean, people, it's hard to now, but when Bruce Pearl took over Tennessee men's basketball, they were not. That was considered a women's basketball school. Um, Pat Summitt was still there. They were really only known for the women's game. And when he got there, he really turned them into kind of,
Yeah.
got that program to where it is now. And Rick Barnes has done a really good job of keeping it there.
Bruce and Pat Summit were really close. Like they had a
Yes,
great
yeah,
relationship together, and did a great job like building that program there. And like she put a lot of effort into like helping Bruce and making sure he had the resources he needed to build that men's basketball program because they were so close with each other.
yeah. And he had, I mean, particularly his 2008 team and his 2010 teams. Those were great, great teams he had at Tennessee. Avenge the 2010 loss against Tom Izzo today. But yeah, he's pretty much built two SEC programs into what they are now. And yeah, I think if he's certainly not in the College Basketball Hall of Fame, he's, kind of just his legacy is cleanly cemented, I would say, within the Auburn community and just the SEC as a whole.
Yeah, no doubt. And then like we talk about the younger guys too with Todd Golden and John Shire in there. I got to pick on our guy Rob real quick for because I was listening to their show after the Elite Eight games. He said it might have been Goodman that said one of those two said I can't remember which one exactly said it like on their recap show that this is the best team John Shire's ever going to have at Duke. That's just like a wild statement. Like with him being 37 years old, like it's like okay, so in the next 35 years, you don't think he's going to have another great team? Like
I mean, there's, I think that obviously comes off as hyperbolic. Um, don't think it's totally like off base. Like, yes, it would be for him to have replicated. I guess if you're talking like, the net rating stuff, the KenPom rating, um, how bad the ACC was that they were able to just run through and dominate the conference and everyone they played. I think maybe that's true. I think it would be hard to fathom some of these ACC programs being this bad for this much longer. Um, so that aspect I understand. And if you like anyone who's saying that, I think regards Cooper Flag as the greatest one and done player of all time, or they do have a collection of talent. I do think they have the most talented team remaining for sure. They got like four potential top 15 picks who start for them. So
You know what I was
nobody
thinking
else has
about
that.
watching? Well, you mentioned that with like their talent, obviously, like how they assembled like just this like long athletic like team that like like if Tennessee had beaten Houston today, would Duke have beaten Tennessee by 30? Because I mean, like when you saw how Duke attacked Mark Sears and took advantage of obviously the size disparity there, and like they're the tallest team in the nation, like they have that length and that gives them such an advantage. Like if Duke was going after Zakai Ziegler in that game, like there's no way Zakai would have been able to hold up the defensive level of production we saw from him all year if they played Duke. Like I was thinking about that and it made me feel dumb because like I did pick Tennessee over Duke in my bracket as like an original. We got Jacob. I did pick Tennessee over Duke in my or like original bracket as an upset. And I
Mhm.
was just like watching the way Duke was attacking Mark Sears last night, and I was just like, if they play Tennessee, like I just don't know how Zakai is going to defend these guys. Like
Yeah, it wouldn't have been him who I would have like. I would have worried about Zakai alone. Duke does not really like the guards don't play a style that like he would be the most in danger per se. And I was with it. I thought Duke, ironically, like Tennessee is one of the reasons that John Shire tried to go after so much length because in 2023, he had a pretty talented team, and Tennessee kicked him in the teeth in the second round of the tournament. Held him to 52 points, and that was kind of John Shire's like, never again are we going to be beaten that way. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think now they would have beaten Tennessee. Like knowing what we know now, I think Duke would have beaten Tennessee, and if because Duke can really adjust and play any style, if they really wanted to get into the mud with Tennessee, kind of how Houston did today, um, I do not think Tennessee would fare very well in that matchup. And I just think the style they play, it just got exposed so badly today. And like Malawach and Flag would have been a nightmare for them too. Like they couldn't score. Like they couldn't score in Houston today, and they definitely were not scoring on Duke if they saw them there. So yeah, that probably would have been pretty ugly. So glad it's Houston. I'm sure Houston's glad it's them because they probably should have beaten Duke last year if Jamal Shead didn't get hurt. So now they get their shot.
um well we got four games to talk about.
Mhm.
I guess we got Jacob in here now. I mean, we don't really need to go in order. I mean, what game do you guys want to talk about first? I mean, obviously, I know which one I want to talk about, but I'm not gonna, you know, shoehorn Auburn in here if you guys are wanting to start with a different game first. But yeah, which one of these four do you guys kind of want to break down a little bit first?
I mean, we can start from the beginning. I mean, there's only 4 games, so I mean, just kind of go through each game and kind of talk about where we go or where we want to go. But
I think it's
no,
fair, however, that we start off with the number one overall seed here, and while it's fresh on our minds, getting to it here.
That's my guy right there. That's my guy right there.
Yeah, let's
Just
let's
get
give him the yeah,
this was
give him the floor
today. This
here.
was the
Yeah.
Auburn team that earned the number one overall seed today. Where I know the game was close at some points, but like other than when Broom got hurt and like we didn't know how bad that was going to be, like that, and like there was never any point in this game like with how we were playing that I was like nervous that like they weren't like they came out and played a full 40 minutes and controlled this game. Like they took advantage of the fact that Michigan State cannot make a 3-pointer to save their lives. Like they were awesome on the glass. Uh, Broom looked like the national player of the year today. I mean, it was one of the best games he's played all season, and he's played a lot of good ones. But just the like, it was immediately like bang, bang, bang right out of the gate. Like he went right to the rack and put him up early. Like, just I couldn't have scripted a better performance by this Auburn team today and what they did. I was so happy with this performance, and something in the second half of that Michigan game woke this team up. But I was just so impressed by this performance and how they came out fired up today. And like Michigan State hung around like they always do. Like it's Michigan State. Like you don't know how they do it because there's a clear talent disparity there that favored Auburn. But like to Michigan State's credit, like they hung around in this game. Like they didn't just go to die. Like they played a full 40 minutes too. And like if you change a few things here or there, it might have been closer. And obviously like the the like moment of the like season, and I'm not trying to like one of the best moments in college basketball this season, like will definitely be in one shining moment, is Janai coming back out of the tunnel in that game and the crowd going insane. I mean, dude, that was just like out of a movie, man. I was like, just that shot of him walking back out of the tunnel, like after and like 5 minutes earlier they gave that report. Like it was so funny because Washburn's given the report, and they were like, uh, Bruce Pearl asked Janai Broom if he's okay, and he said no. The team's very concerned. His parents are with him in the locker room, and they're very concerned about this injury. But he might still come back to this game. And I was like, that was all over the place. And then, like 5 minutes later, here comes Janai running back out of the tunnel, and it's like, man, that's this season's been fucking incredible. And like that just that moment of Janai coming back out to that game. And then he comes back out, gets a rebound with one arm, and then goes down and hits like a 3-pointer that I feel like that three that Janai hit was like the real dagger that like put this thing in full control for Auburn. Where like he's like, I'm good, guys. Like I'll knock down this three. Like I got this. We're good. And then they took him out the rest of the game. Like didn't want to jeopardize him anymore. Like he came back in, put the nail in the coffin, and yeah, I don't. It was fucking awesome. I'm ecstatic. Like you couldn't draw this thing up any better than how Auburn played today. They did what they needed to do.
Yeah, I was at no point ever of the belief that I was like, yeah, here comes Michigan State. Like here we go. Yeah, like you look at the win probability, there was never really any point where Auburn was not in control. Yeah, I think that they didn't dominate on the glass, but they found uh, today Michigan State pretty clearly was like, we're not going to double Janai, and we're just going to stay with the shooters. That way, we're not going to get beat that way. It did not work. Safe to say, most of the time, because for one, they were still hitting threes, which that was not great. But they just didn't hold up their bargain on the other end of the floor. I don't think they defended poorly, Michigan State, but I mean, just some of these guys, the guards just really, really let them down. Shooting, they actually got a really good game out of Jackson Core today. But yeah, just Trey Holman 0 for 10, just a brutal game by him. Akins was 6 for 17. Jace Richardson was 4 for 13. Fears only got up 4 shots on the game. So, their best players just did not really show up. That was, and credit to Auburn, they defended him well. But, yeah, all things considered, this was not a good game by Michigan State. I know they only lost by 6. It did not feel like a 6-point game. Just kind of, felt pretty steady by Auburn for that entire game there. And yeah, that's an all-time game there. from him. And yeah, there's really not much else to say. He's not going to be the National Player of the Year, but that was certainly a National Player of the Year performance by him there.
This is why they should not give National Player of the Year out until the tournament's over, because like if let's say it was still open, they didn't vote on this thing until after the tournament. Like Janai definitely would have taken the lead back after this game.
Yeah, I mean it's a regular season award, and I understand why they do it that way. So you can make sure that like Luka Garza, who's going to be eliminated in the round of 64, still gets rewarded for his regular season, that kind of thing. Yeah, I understand that's why, and it's the same thing with the Heisman. People have been asking for that for years with them as well. But yeah, I mean, in a day where a lot of Auburn's guys did not really show up and play well. Chad Baker-Mazara was poor. Miles Kelly was poor. Todd Pettiford was okay. I don't think he was great. It certainly wasn't the performance he had in that Sweet 16 game against Michigan.
I have to give another, like, we're just talking about how you're never going to see it on the stat sheet, but Dylan Cardwell is just an incredible player. Like, I'm so thankful that Dylan Cardwell came to Auburn. He's been loyal to Auburn. He had offers to go make a lot of money at other SEC schools and go there and start and play a lot more and be more of a focal point on those teams. And he's just so loyal to Auburn. He's been loyal to Auburn and Bruce Pearl. He's such a big part of the culture at the school and of this basketball team. And it's like he doesn't complain. Like he does what they like. He is the like William Luke said this earlier when we were watching the game. And it's a good, like he is the, like if you look up a role player in the dictionary, it's Dylan Cardwell, because he goes out and he is such a presence in the paint. He works his ass off on the glass. Like he never lacks in effort. He gives the team such a jolt. Like he goes and blocks shots and is just a constant presence there. Like Dylan Cardwell is just like, however the season ends, is like the true unsung hero of this team.
Yeah, he was not bad today in terms of that kind of non-stat sheet stuff. I do think that might be put to some kind of a test and a bit exposed against the Florida Bigs.
For sure.
So
For sure.
yeah, we'll see. But yeah, today, celebration of that team and what they accomplished. And yeah, today was their Janai game and the game that they needed him to step up, the game that they've been waiting for him to have for some time. Because this defensive strategy Michigan State had might not work for them, but it might work for a team with better talent, with a big who can defend Janai a little better. And, there's the element of his health. Like, we don't really know, what's going on with the elbow there with him. It looked not good on replay, but he did not
that
seem
whole
like
ball was like the leg buckled, then like him planting the hand. Like it looked nasty.
It
but
looked
he
like
did not
Tom Segura getting hurt. Like where he blew his ACL out and then landed on his like arm. Like it looked like his elbow popped.
I mean, I said it to you guys when it happened. Like I just could not get it out of my head. Like when this happened, that I was like, it felt like it was Chuma all over again. Where like Chuma was the best player on our team in 2019, Sweet 16, second half against North Carolina. Like he broke his leg. Like that was a lot more gruesome than what we saw with Broom here. But it just felt like like I was just getting deja vu with Chuma when Broom went down here.
Janai did not seem to be in like agonizing pain of any kind. He just kind of, like looked frustrated, obviously, but it didn't appear that, and he was hugely laboring, which might be part of the reason he came back. But yeah, just seeing some of those one-handed rebounds, and like, is there really much of a reason for him to be in this game? I was kind of like, I'm not sure if it's really worth it. But yeah, that's going to be the biggest story and the biggest headline and the biggest talking point about Auburn going into the Final Four is Janai's health, because without him, they are toast. So that's no surprise to anyone, but yeah, they're going to need him badly.
Yeah, I know Janai Broom today. He played great. I mean, Auburn won that game because of him. Auburn did outside of him, they didn't really have their greatest shooting performance. Hit a lot of bricks. I know for a stretch
Nobody
there in the
does
second.
against Michigan State, by the way.
Yeah, Michigan State, they had a chance to be in this game. They just couldn't hit their threes down the stretch till the very end of the game when it was a little too late. Um, they played physical. Went at Broom and Cardwell, and they just kind of came up short. Just didn't have that offensive firepower to keep up. So
Yeah, that was the biggest thing.
Mhm.
They game plan on offense and defense was not bad. It was not a bad game plan. They just really did not have the players to execute it, and yeah, it just was on full display with the lack of shot making they had there. And for as bad as the post defense might have been for Michigan State in that game, Kohler really stepped up offensively and was really the only one who could shoot for Michigan State there. So yeah, just a rough game shooting for Michigan State there. That should be their number one portal priority. They have got to get some shooting on that team. So
well, that
we'll
would
see.
require
But
Izzo getting in the portal. So
yes, Izzo is the Dabo Swinney of college basketball with the portal stuff and with the NIL stuff. And credit to him because he still, finds basketball teams that are capable of, going to Final Fours and, maybe any other year. Like Michigan State goes to a Final Four this year, but, with the one seeds that were in the field this year, it just wasn't going to happen with them.
yeah, but I mean, dude, yeah, it's been a dream season, and it's like we're going to the Final Four, like we got our tickets after the game, and it's like as a fan, I just feel like whatever happens from here, like we're gonna go play Florida, and like I hope to hell we win, but like if we don't, it's like this season, like there's no scenario that happens in San Antonio unless we have like another Virginia double dribble situation or some shit. Like like if we go there and just get beat by Florida, it's like this season is I don't know how you can look at it as anything but a resounding success and like a season we'll remember for the rest of our lives. Like it's been fucking incredible, and it's like I'm just so damn happy and proud of this team. Proud to be a fan, man. And like we'll see what happens in against Florida. I mean, I like our chances against Florida. We'll see as long as Janai's healthy. Like we played a bad game against them earlier this year, but like Florida's not playing their best basketball right now, and it seems like Auburn's starting to find their best basketball again. Uh, the last 30 minutes of basketball they played, so just like momentum wise, I like our chances going into the matchup against Florida.
Yeah, I would say for them, like no matter what happens, it's their best season in the history of their program, and a lot of good they can take from this season, whether Florida beats them or not. And I think Florida will beat them. Florida is minus 2.5 currently, so we'll see if that line moves or anything. But yeah, I think that's a successful season, however you look at it. Anytime you make a Final Four, it's a huge deal, and I think some programs can be desensitized to that, and I think yeah, it's a huge success regardless for that team and that program. So I think they should you know be satisfied, the fan base there for Auburn.
Well, we can hit the aforementioned Florida and their win over Texas Tech,
Mhm.
but yeah, Texas Tech. I mean, quite the. They were on the opposite end of exactly how that Arkansas game went against Florida. Like they had Florida dead to rights, and I just like one of the ballsiest coaching moves I've seen all season in a long time was Golden having them intentionally foul Williams and then Toppin when Tech was up 9 with 3-4 minutes left, or 2-3 minutes left, whatever it was. But to go down and that's like, we talk about the analytic side of the game, and like that was an analytical play by Todd Golden where like he sees how these guys, like their lack of success from the charity stripe, and your odds of, with how many possessions you're down 9, how many possessions you're going to need to get the lead, your odds of shortening that possession and sending 2 subpar free throw shooters to the line, and then they both missed the front end of 1-and-1s because they still had 2 fouls to give, and Florida was able to capitalize on those and go down and hit 2 3-pointers immediately to bang bang. Suddenly it goes from a 9-point game to a 3-point game. Like, that was, people think of analytics as like the Nate Oates, like we're going to shoot a ton of 3-pointers because of analytics. Like, this was an analytic play where it's like, we need to maximize the amount of possessions we're going to get late in this game. And to make that call, which is ballsy as hell because it could easily backfire, to intentionally foul in that situation. Like, you got to tip your hat to Todd Golden for having the balls to do that, and for it working out for him.
Yeah, I mean that was I've been a huge fan of Todd Golden since he's been at San Francisco there, and he's always been ahead of the game with that kind of stuff. But this is something Joe Mazzulla does a lot in the NBA with the Celtics. But I think this was just straight up film study on display here for Todd Golden. We saw Arkansas really struggle, and they refused. They did not foul Texas Tech. They tried their best not to, to make them beat them, to really grind out some of those possessions and force tough shots. Florida did not do that. They saw how that worked for Arkansas. Arkansas obviously did not foul up 3 when they had the chance. So the door was wide open for them to try this. It's obviously risky, but it was the right thing to do. Toppin did not make a free throw in the game. So there was really just, you have to do that if you're them. And, they it worked to perfection. And yeah, Golden's a great coach. He's one of the best coaches in the sport. And that move, just may have was one of it did not just single-handedly win them the game because, those guys, particularly Clayton, again, had to make some huge shots. But yeah, all in all, Golden really, I would say, had his way this game with Grant McCaslin, who is a great coach in his own right. But yeah, to make a Final Four in those situations, to come back from those deficits, you got to take some pretty big risks and, rely on what got you there, rely on your analytics, rely on your numbers. So yeah, credit Florida, they did that and it paid off. And, Clayton is the best closer remaining in college basketball. He's the best closer in the Final Four and probably going to be the biggest weapon remaining in the tournament because if the game's close, he is just on fire, just cannot be touched, making everything. So yeah, that was a really fun game. That was definitely worth this sucks that Arkansas is not in this game feel for how well Texas Tech played them for 35 minutes. But yeah, the better team won. Texas Tech in their own right should probably feel pretty good about their season as well, with how well they constructed that team in the portal. But yeah, this was just masterclass by Florida, masterclass from Clayton again, and they're going to the Final Four.
I mean, that's kind of the fun in watching Florida play. They are never out of a game at the end of a game. You just kind of have that feeling that they can turn it on at the drop of a hat. Walter Clayton Jr., he gives me very strong Carson Edwards vibes, just kind of hitting those crazy shots at the end of the games, just kind of pulling up from wherever and making it, just kind of guided Florida there.
I salute Jacob, man. He will work a Purdue reference anywhere
Yeah.
he can work it in.
Exa-
I respect it.
Bro, Carson Edwards, I will sing Carson Edwards praises of any Purdue player. Walter Clayton Jr. deserves that praise. Like, it's that type of level. He's had
I
a
mean, I would
performance.
say this was like
Yeah.
Kemba Walker level. I mean, he is dragging them currently. Like,
Mhm.
basically won them the game against UConn and then won them this game against Texas
Shabazz
Tech.
Napier.
Yeah, he's on that level of guard, I think you could say.
Yeah. That's how it was in that Virginia game. You drug Purdue kicking and screaming. But Walter Clayton Jr., he's just impressive. That Texas Tech game, he's kind of shocking. I know this kind of continued the trend of Florida just kind of going, just skirting by at the start of games and then just turning it on like that. I thought it looked kind of bleak when I turned it on with like 3 minutes left. It looked like Texas Tech had the game in the bag, but then they just elevated that to that next level. So I think that was an impressive comeback for Florida, and that's what the great teams do that win tournaments. They find ways to win. Goes back to old Jimmy V, survive and advance, and they certainly did that. So.
Yeah, it's like Florida's not playing their best basketball in this tournament by any I certainly don't think like this is the Florida team we saw coming into this tournament where they were just like dog walking everybody. Like UConn had them dead to rights. Like Maryland played a great first half against them, and Kevin Willard was out the door in the second half, and then like Texas Tech had them dead to rights. So that's 2 times in 3 games that teams have really had them like dead to rights, and they found a way to respond. Like they're not playing their best basketball, but like you said, like they're surviving and they're finding a way to win these games, and like they're in the Final Four now.
Yeah, and these are good teams they're running into. I mean, like pretty quality opponents. We talked about UConn, and Maryland is, I hope their entire team was able to make that Zoom meeting this morning where Kevin Willard told him he's out. But yeah, and Texas Tech is a team that certainly good enough to make a Final Four and match up really well with Florida. And probably the biggest area, if Florida were to have any concerns, because I still think they're playing really good basketball, is the turnovers were an issue. Their first half against Maryland, and really, in this game, they had 12 turnovers, and Texas Tech took really good care of the ball. So that was probably the single biggest issue, along with the other non-Clayton guards really showing up. Richard and Elijah Martin were not good in this game, offensively at least. They defended pretty well, but this was pretty much entirely Walter Clayton and some of the bigs who just came to play and ended up closing the door for them. So, yeah, it made for really high level game, and you're going to get these teams' best shots. So, yeah, I still think Florida's playing really well, but yeah, some of these teams that they're seeing, it's a different breed in NCAA tournament basketball. Duke is crushing teams who don't really play any defense. Like Arizona's not a great defensive team. Bama certainly just doesn't guard anyone. So Florida's probably seen a much tougher path than the likes of what someone like Duke has seen. So yeah, it's fair to make comparisons. But yeah, I still think they're playing really good basketball. I still think they're really well coached. They have arguably the best player remaining. They have the best closer. They certainly have the best guard. So that gives them a huge edge in close games down the stretch.
Yeah. Well, you hit on Alabama not playing any defense, and that was the second game yesterday, and that was just a good old fashioned ass kicking right there. And Duke didn't even play their best game by any stretch of the imagination. It's like not one of Cooper Flagg's banner games of the year by any means, but Alabama was never really competitive in this game. Thank God. But they were Yeah, they got run off the floor in this game. Sears was absolute trash in this game. I could not be more thrilled to see Mark Sears' college career end this pathetic, and shows the fraud of a player I think he is. Like, one of the most overrated players in the history of college basketball, in my opinion, where, like, if this guy isn't hitting a wide open three or getting to the free throw line, like, if you actually like contest him on defense at all and put any pressure on him, like, he folds. He's a complete liability on defense, and Duke attacked that, and is really like why they were able to control this game. Mark Sears got completely just fucking put on his ass, exposed in this game, and I mean, for a guy that everybody was crowning the National Player of the Year in the preseason, and he's the preseason favorite, and Bama's, people picking them to win the national championship, dude is just as big a fraud as there's ever been in college basketball. So I mean, have fun in China or Saudi Arabia or Italy or wherever you end up playing, Mark. I'm glad it won't be in the SEC anymore.
Yeah, I certainly I feel a little differently, more positively about Mark Sears' career, but I understand why you feel the way that you do. Yeah, I mean, I actually disagree. I think this was one of Cooper Flag's best games, just defensively alone.
That's
He
fair.
guarded
Yeah.
at least everyone once, like all the Bama guys. And Bama, that's just something that makes them really good and really tough to guard. They just keep coming. They don't stop. All those guys can shoot. All those guys can score. And yeah, Flag at one point like guarded and completely strapped up everyone they had at least a few times down the floor. And this was a game where he really needed it because Bama kept hunting. Anytime Sears got switched on to Khan, Sears was hunting Khan Knippel the entire game in the switches. And, the rotations from particularly Flag and Malach had to be really on point, which they were. And they guarded really well. And I thought they were Duke's best players yesterday. They defended really well, um, you rebounded really well. So yeah, giving those guys all the credit they deserve because without that, they held that Bama team to 65 points, and that's that's a high level offense to hold to that number, especially in a neutral court Elite Eight game. So yeah, I believe I don't think they expose like Mark Sears is a small guard. Duke is a huge team. That's a pretty big mismatch for him, and credit to them. Yeah, Duke really made him pay. But overall, they certainly cannot stop missing. They are shooting at a really high level. Again, as I said before, they're not really playing anyone who can guard. Like, I understand if you're hitting all your shots against Mount St. Mary's and Arizona and Bama, but and Baylor, can't leave out the Bears. But yeah, that I'm not ready to say that this is the greatest Duke team of all time or anything else like some of the other people have said, but yeah, that was an awesome, like, if you are tanking for Cooper Flag, that's kind of why type thing. So
Wizard.
yeah, really, yeah. So yeah, that like Duke's a much better team than Bama.
Cooper, get ready to learn Washington Wizards, buddy.
Yeah.
Hope you're enjoying winning now because you're not going to do a lot of it in the next few years.
Yeah, and that's a tough one for Sears also, just because I do think Bama was the best version of themselves when Phylon was kind of leading and running that offense. And Sears just did not have it. For as well as he played against BYU, as you mentioned, the defensive pressure was ratcheted up to a whole other level. Duke was not going to let him.
Duke wasn't just going to run under
anything.
every screen and give him a wide open shot.
Yeah, not a chance. And Duke really dragged them into the mud on how they wanted to play, and yeah, they did it. Yeah, I thought John Shire was great this game, and I think your concern of teams being like, are we just gonna shoot all these threes the whole time? Like, yeah, I think they showed that, like, if you can get a pretty long, athletic team, Duke defended the perimeter really, really well.
The
It was
problem is
really,
not every team has that capability to get
sure, they don't.
that level of talent that length that Duke has. Like,
Yeah. But yeah, I was really impressed with Duke. I think it's fair to say they are probably the betting favorite to win the tournament. They are certainly playing best going into the Final Four. But yeah, just all in all, really, really impressed with them. Really impressed with Cooper Flag and just how well they defended. And if you're Bama, I do think the strategy works, and I do think Nate Oates will probably win a title one day when he gets a team that shoots well enough. But they just have to guard. Like, some of these possessions, Bama just completely was like, we're like, okay, and like, who cares? Like, the first few shots that Duke had taken, the first three threes were wide open. Like, Cooper Flag wide open, Knipple wide open. Nobody was guarding. So I do think that kind of needs to be a little more of a there needs to be a little more of a sense of urgency on the defensive end from them, because the Brandon Miller team they had was really, really solid on defense. But yeah, this year it just was not up to where it should have been.
so we talk about Nate Oates after the game. Like, well, we should have been a 1 seed, and the 1 seeds get such an easy path. Yeah, you
Well, he's
fucking
not
right,
wrong.
bitch.
Yeah.
You fucking went to the Final Four, beating Grand Canyon and fucking Clemson last year, and you're like, and then you're a 1 seed and you lose to San Diego State and get your shit knocked in by a Mountain West team in the Sweet 16. The 1 seed is just so easy if you're a 1 seed. They don't have to play anybody. Like, I fucking hate Nate Oates so much.
Alabama, they almost lost to the 15 seed, so I will
Yeah,
I was gonna give
they
my
certainly
assessment of
played them
this.
tougher than
Yeah,
BYU.
yeah. I'd say Alabama had an easy road for the most part. They just didn't play anyone that could keep up with their offense until Duke, of course. But like Duke is such a bad mismatch for Alabama. It's not even funny. Like there's teams out there that can challenge Duke. Alabama is not one of those. They just don't play good enough defense to keep up, and we saw that. I mean, I had Duke easily in the Final Four. I think out of all the 1 seeds, Duke had the easiest path. So we'll
No
see.
question. No question there.
Yeah. We'll see how
I
they
was
do.
told by Alabama fans on Twitter, I saw after, I just need to mention that Auburn had the easiest path to the Final Four of all time. That was a take I saw. So we beat the Big Ten tournament champions and the outright regular season Big Ten champions to get there. But nevertheless, easiest path of all time for Auburn. But sorry,
Yeah, it
I'm
was
on a
not
roll,
a
Jacob.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off. Like, what'd you say, Matt? I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it was not a murderer's row of teams, but I'm not going to sit here and say that was not a cakewalk per se either. But yeah, that's Nate Oates is not wrong. I believe he has the tournament set up correct. It is easier for the 1 seeds. It should be, in theory, to make the Final Four.
Well, why didn't you
So
get past the Sweet 16 when you were at 1 seed, since it's so easy, Nate?
well, I mean, that year they probably could have the national championship game if they did. But yeah, that's a tough one. National runner-up here and knocked him out. So, and then an eventual national champion the next year. So we'll see how it is with Duke. But that is a tough run of some of these teams for Nate Oates.
What were you saying, Jacob, before I cut you off? I'm sorry.
I mean, I didn't have much else to say, just other than Duke. I mean, I'm not surprised they rolled Alabama last night. I didn't watch much of the game. I think I watched a little bit of the start, but
Yeah, this was Yeah, I'm just bye, Mark Sears. Well, all right. So let's make predictions now. What country will Mark Sears be playing basketball in next year?
Turkey.
We got one turkey on the board.
I think
Germany or Turkey?
he will be his first year. I think he'll get a summer league invite for an NBA team. I think he'll sign a G League deal, and then we'll see how long he cuts it there. So that's who knows. I mean, really, if you can shoot, that's kind of your half your meal ticket to the NBA. So I'm sure he'll get a shot on a summer league roster. A lot of guys do. So yeah, we'll see. But I'm sure he'll be in the G League for a year, maybe two, and then that's when the international fun starts. That's when you gotta like brush up on your foreign languages.
Yeah. Get ready to learn. What is Turkish? Do they have their own language? Is it Turkish?
Yeah, that'd be
Or,
their
like,
language.
Yeah,
get
it's
ready to
either
learn
that or Arabic. Yeah.
Get ready to learn Turkish, buddy. Yeah, I just had is and Grant's done too. Is he, or does he have one more year?
Grant Nelson, I think, should be done. I'm not sure though, but I'm pretty sure that was his last year of eligibility. But
Yeah,
I have no idea. It's hard to
Phylon
keep
will
up
go.
these days.
Phylon will go to the NBA. He'll be a first round pick.
Yes,
Phylon,
yeah, he'll
I,
go. Um, that's an old team, so a lot of those guys will not be back. Um, but who
yeah,
knows?
real
I mean,
shame they couldn't get to the Final Four with that team, right?
yeah, Nate Oates has always been like a big portal guy, like before it was kind of in style. So I think he's pretty comfortable just like going
So
through the portal trying to find people.
before we get to the last game, because I'm not just saying this about Alabama, but just in general, like we were talking about it earlier, I did want to bring it up with you guys and get your thoughts. Like, so for a school like Alabama, with this revenue sharing we're about to get, like, how much is this going to hurt these powerhouse football schools who are trying to build like big basketball teams? Because like, are they going to get their fair cut of this revenue sharing to give to the basketball team, or are like the decision makers at Alabama or Tennessee or whatever school just going to hog up all that money for football? Like, whereas like I think the Kevin Willard situation is an example of this because this revenue sharing is coming and all that revenue share is going to the basketball team at Villanova. Well, Maryland, you have the powers that be that still think they're a football school or can be a football school for some reason. Apparently, it's a big power struggle in the athletic administration at Maryland where even though they've literally never been good at football, there's still people that think they can be a football school and want to devote a lot of money to the football program. But just in general, like, how does that revenue sharing end up affecting a school like Alabama, where football is obviously going to be the primary focus? Like, and like you're going to have all like this large pot of money coming in to get distributed to the players, and I'm sure if like what I know about the powers that be at Alabama, they are not going to be giving much to the basketball team out of that.
Yeah, I think it's more of a not existential, but it's a crisis for I would say every Power Five school. I don't think it only extends to the SEC. I think this goes to everywhere because
Besides
football.
The Big East,
Yes,
are,
besides the Big East, they're
they're
in
the
a different
winners of
category
this.
of their own. But I do think like football ultimately will always pay for all the other schools. College sports is a total socialist model, as we might have talked about on here before. But yeah, football and men's basketball pay for everything. And now, football is obviously kind of like a little over maybe 60% of that, and then basketball is the rest. So football is always going to be king at those SEC schools, especially because that's where most of the revenue is going to come from. I think where you're going to see more of the struggle is on the sports that are not football, men's basketball. And I think I think Bama is actually kind of in pretty good shape because they do not have a very good women's team. They are not a school that really puts any resources into their women's team. And I think those are the schools who you're going to see like with some more of the revenue issues with, where they have more big bill sports to keep on, to keep happy, I guess you could say. And Bama really is, I would actually say they're in probably a better spot than a lot of these other schools because they only care for football and men's basketball. Like, they do not spend a ton of resources in their baseball team. They do not spend a ton of resources in their women's basketball team. I don't know how many sports they have at Bama. My brother works at the athletic department at Stanford, and that university has like over 30 varsity sports that they have to keep happy and that they have to share revenue with and share money with. I don't think that Bama is going to be one of those schools where you're looking around like, now we have a revenue sharing problem. I mean, they're always going to put money into football as is. They're always going to put money into basketball as is. They don't really put much money into anything else. I think the schools you kind of have to watch more in that situation would be like your South Carolinas, Tennessee. Tennessee has a great baseball program that they want to continue with. LSU has a great baseball program that they have invested a ton of money in. The
Georgia's
last
got a
few
really
years
good baseball team this year.
Yeah, so there's a lot of those schools. I think you'll just see it affect kind of the lower level ones, but I actually don't think the SEC should be in a ton of danger with that. I think you'll see like that's more of potentially maybe in some Big Ten schools. Jacob's pretty fortunate that Purdue football is not really stealing any resources these days. But yeah, like Indiana, like where does Indiana go with this? Like Indiana's always been a basketball school. And now they just made the college football playoff. And like, where do you go with this? Like,
and this is a big reason why Kevin Willard left Maryland, because he saw the writing on the wall for this.
Yeah, I think that's that's probably, and they have like AD instability there. They don't didn't have a lot. But yeah, I think if you are a college basketball coach, you want to go to a school that's going to invest all of their resources into your program, and that's one of the reasons that Willard left, among others. But yeah, I don't think some of these SEC schools will be in total dire straits with that. I could be wrong, but Bama, no matter what the revenue sharing model is, Bama's always going to spend money on football. It's just always going to be the case because football will pay, for everything else that happens at that university. So yeah, I think overall they're in like a pretty good place with it for now, but we'll see. So I think some of those schools are in pretty good shape, but who knows?
No, Matt, it's funny you mentioned that. I know Purdue basketball, we're getting ready to like spend a crap ton in NIL money this offseason.
Yeah.
Football hasn't gotten there. I know they've pushed up, but I don't think Purdue is support like those minor league sports. It's all going towards men's basketball and a little bit to football. Like baseball and women's basketball don't really matter.
Yeah.
At Purdue right now. So
and Auburn's already had, like, I can speak for my school, like some issues of their own, like where obviously like with as good as our basketball team is this year, like Bruce has been trying for years to get a new basketball facility built at Auburn, and it got tabled this year. And like at the same time this is going on, they're spending a gazillion dollars to put a new scoreboard in, like, because we have a jumbotron in one end zone and they're taking down the old scoreboard in the other end zone and putting a scoreboard in the other end zone. And like obviously like a lot of money went to that, and Bruce has been fighting for years to get a new basketball facility at Auburn, and that got tabled. So like you have those fights everywhere, and it's like even at a school like Auburn where like the basketball team is leaps and bounds more successful than the football team has been.
Sure.
Like there's still that struggle over where the money's going to go.
Yeah, and that's what makes the SEC so much more unique than any other conference in that way, because no matter how good Auburn basketball will be, I mean, football is always going to, be what, people talk about year round mostly. And like, I don't know if this is true or not, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Like, what would would you trade this Final Four run or like 4 straight years of beating Bama in football?
Ugh. So you're saying I can have one or the other?
Yeah.
Do we win a national championship in this Final Four run?
Yeah, I don't know, but that's like
If
only a
it's
conversation
for a
that
national
you need.
championship in basketball, yeah, like I'll lose to Bama a few more times. I'm already used to doing that anyway.
But that's a conversation that's really only unique to a few schools have that. Um, Auburn's one of them, but on top of the fact that football just makes that much more money, it's still like the SEC adage. It does just mean more to everyone there. So yeah, it's a unique situation, I would say there. And you can ask the same for like how it is at Michigan and Ohio State. Like I mean, Michigan had a great basketball season this year, but would they trade a Final Four run of their own or national championship in basketball to lose to Ohio State 4 straight years? I don't think so. So
You
yeah,
guys,
it's a unique discussion point.
you guys take this over for a few minutes. If you want to get into the
Mhm.
next game, you can, or keep talking about it. I gotta go to the bathroom. So
Okay, you're good.
We talked about when we were last on here, and I'll have to ask him when he gets back here, but the kind of the style that Bama plays at, the kind of run and gun, no defense, only shoot threes. I feel as if the style that we saw today from Tennessee and Houston is more of an like that is harder to watch than the that kind of run and gun style. That is that's just total ass kicking from Houston given to Tennessee here today, which
Yeah,
I'm sure
Houston.
brought you great satisfaction. Yeah.
I was happy with it because Houston plays like they. I mean, Houston really isn't that ugly to watch. They just play physical
No, they
defense.
make
Tennessee,
shots. Yeah.
yeah, they make shots. Tennessee just kind of like was
Ugh.
chucking. They
Yeah,
they did what Kentucky did. That like it's funny. Kentucky transferred their game plan over to Tennessee pretty much. I
it was
I
pretty rough
have
just
yeah
watching that Tennessee, like it almost looked as if they did not know what they were getting themselves into
yeah
when the game started. They were like shocked by the Houston defense, and like that is one thing that those SEC teams don't really see. They don't really see that level of intensity on defense, and yeah, it was bad. And like we were talking about before with like Zakai Zador being hunted by like if they had run into Duke. Um, Really, the only thing that they had today was like Chaz or Gainey running off the screen, and that was it. Like they had no post play.
mhm.
The guards could not get in the lane or anything, and yeah, it was just pretty much a clinic from Houston all the way around. But I do think they kind of looked at that Purdue game and they were like, well, if Purdue can do it, then like, we should be good here. But
The
yeah,
difference is
just ugly, ugly
Purdue
basketball day.
Purdue has Braden Smith and they have Zakai
Yes,
Ziegler.
yeah, and that is not a fair comparison.
No,
So that's like as nice of a career, which is what I would call it. I would call it a nice career by his
mhm.
guys. I don't think he's like all time
Terrible or
status
anything.
here or
Yeah,
anything. Yeah, but it's he nice college career by him. But all things considered, yeah, the right team won, and I thought Tennessee was going to beat him. I just thought that they were going to be used to that playing the SEC the entire season, and it just did not happen. And like if you're Tennessee, I don't really know where you go from here in this instance. Like I don't like Houston was probably the only one seed that Tennessee was probably going to beat. I mean, they've already beaten Auburn, obviously, but like the way Auburn's playing now, combined with just how Tennessee played today, I don't know how they would have matched up in any other scenario against any other team.
because Tennessee, I was kind of shocked how bad their defense was
It
in
was
this
terrible.
game. Yeah, they're
It's
supposed to
terrible.
be they're supposed to be a defensive juggernaut, and they were just giving Houston shots. Like Friday night, Purdue shots Houston was taking, Purdue would run them off the line. Tennessee was just letting them
Yeah,
shoot.
that's well because Houston's actually like an underratedly really
Mhm.
good 3-point shooting team,
Yeah.
and like he like LJ Cryer crushed Gonzaga like with hitting those threes, and
Mhm.
Purdue cut it off pretty well, and I cannot believe with a team that has at least defensively been as good as Tennessee has the entire season, they did not have it in them to be like, it was almost like, well, we're just going to make you beat us from here. And like, well, some of those guys, that's all they're capable of doing. So I don't know, what you're thinking here, but yeah, it was painful to watch there for Tennessee. And yeah, that's one where like they have got to get some more scoring in there. Like they almost need like what the opposite of what Bama needs. They need like Tennessee needs guys who can score and at minimum push the pace a little bit. And yeah, because they just did not have it today. And yeah, it was rough.
Can I, like, this is such an Auburn issue that just happened to me. I just used the bathroom and ran into a problem. All my toilet paper in my house is currently in the trees at Toomer's Corner.
Mm,
And I did not think this through before I used the bathroom. I was like, oh, God. Forgot about that.
tough scene, yeah. Auburn moment right there.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think anybody that's not an Auburn fan is ever going to have that issue. Oh, wait, all my toilet paper is in the trees right now.
Yeah, I certainly would hope not.
Unless you're a teenager in the 80s.
Yeah, that would
PP
be
in
it there.
the teacher's house.
Sorry to hijack that discussion. I just had to get in there.
Yeah, but that's well, we were just talking about Chaz Lanier going 4 for 18 and Zakai Ziegler being 1 for 9. Gainey was about the only bright spot that Tennessee had today. He shot 50% himself, but
this game was over in the first 10
Yeah,
minutes.
it was done.
Tennessee came out, their body language was awful. They said at NCAA they scored the lowest output in a first half since like 1978 or 79. I forget which year it was.
There was no 3-point line in the 70s, so that should tell you all you need to know. Yeah.
It's also funny the lowest scoring NCAA game ever, like in the modern era, was also Tennessee.
Yeah.
It's ironic.
When they got down double digits, it's like, all right, this is over.
Yeah.
Because this Houston number one, like Tennessee's not built to come back from that against anybody. And then when you compound that with the fact you're playing this Houston team that's just a bunch of physical junkyard dogs that aren't going to give up anything. It's like, yeah, if you get down, I said it in the group chat. I was like, if you get down double digits against this Houston team, it's like, thanks for coming out. Like
I was telling Tennessee fans when it was early in the game, I was like, once this gets to 15, it's gonna get ugly for Tennessee. Like once Houston gets above a 15-point lead, that's like the no coming back from
once
that
it got
point.
to 8, it was ugly for Tennessee. It was like, this is ugly as is.
I mean, and just the level of just they couldn't make anything. And they were desperate just to get any open looks, and their only play was just Chaz Lanier running off the screen, and that was all they had. It was just him and Gainey, and Houston was just all over it. And yeah, the right team won, better team won here, and just again, like
just
Rick Barnes,
a pathetic effort by Tennessee. Pathetic, like that. Like this is. And like this was a good matchup.
A complete game. Like Tennessee played hard in the second half, but like the first 15 minutes were so bad that it didn't matter by that point.
It was so big, and then as soon as Tennessee went on that run, Houston hit 3 threes in a row.
And this was a good matchup for Tennessee because like you're playing a team that wants to play the same style. Like it's not off. Like you usually have to drag teams into playing that kind of matchup that you want to play. Like this is a team that like it's like game on. They want to play your brand of basketball, and like in theory, you have the roster to like go up against that. So like this should have been a great matchup for Tennessee. That like they're comfortable playing the style, and they're playing a team that wants to play exactly like they play, and it's like game on. And they just like came out and looked absolutely rocked.
Tennessee should have boxed out with their elbows. Like every single time they would get stripped, get the ball knocked out. I mean, that's like how Houston likes to play, but they just didn't. they didn't box out at all. No physicality, just kind of a lot of standing around on missed shots. They kind of did the opposite of everything Purdue did to stay in the game Friday night. Just kind of Kelvin Sampson coach circles around Rick Barnes today. There's no other way to, no other way to put it.
Well, I think a lot of what Sampson did, like just from a game planning standpoint
Mhm.
alone, that was where it really kind of set him apart. And yeah, just they did not. It's hard because I don't think Rick Barnes coached a really good second half, I thought, but yeah, the first half they were not there. They were getting crushed on the offensive glass, especially. Um, yeah, Tugler was first to every loose ball. And yeah, they look shocked. They look shell shocked, and there is really you can't really adjust to another team playing as hard as Houston does until you are in the game. And yeah, they just did not have the horses offensively to handle that. So yeah, Rick Barnes, they got Dalton Connect last year. They're going to need that kind of player again. They are probably going to need multiple if they want to ever get to a Final Four here. But yeah, as you said, this was, of all the one seeds that they were probably going to be paired with, they'd probably pick Auburn because they had already beaten them and they played them really close before. But Houston plays that style, and I thought that Tennessee was going to beat them because I just thought that, being in the SEC and oh, well, they've seen, you know, this level of team before. And clearly, yeah, today was not the case.
Well, I guess we can preview these matchups a little bit and talk about them that we will have in the Final Four. By the way, Jacob, is this a Steve Irwin behind you? Is that who you're rooting for in the Final Four?
Yeah, there's two reasons I have that as my background. I'm rooting for Florida just for my bracket, and then two, Oscar Clough is most likely headed to Purdue from Australia. He's from Australia, so
Oh, okay, I see.
yeah,
Well, good pool there.
good.
But
Yeah.
so yeah, these games, Final Four, Auburn versus Florida, Houston versus Duke. Guess we can start with the Auburn versus Florida game, and I mean I alluded to it a little bit, but yeah, like we played Florida earlier this year and did not play our best game against them,
Mhm.
but you know, I think having Florida not playing their best basketball coming into this game, and having seen them once and not wanting to, because I mean that was just that was one of those games where we kind of questioned the effort with this Auburn team, and they kind of got caught sleeping. It was the week before they were going to play Bama, and everybody knew that how huge that game was going to be. It was a weird spot for Auburn, and like they didn't play their best game against Florida this year at all, no doubt. Like there's a reason Florida's favored in this game, but I do think I don't know the last 30 minutes of basketball that they played give me a lot of confidence going into the matchup. I mean Denver Jones is one of the best defenders in the nation, so I feel really confident in having Denver Jones out there to match up with Clayton, and yeah, I mean it's just going to be a real our bigs are going to have to do better on the boards than they did last time we played Florida. And Broom's health is going to be a big factor in that. And we don't know much about that right now and how healthy Broom is going to be in this. And if it is a serious issue, it's going to create problems on the boards for Auburn. But I think on the surface, this game could definitely go either way. Florida's favored, but I don't think this is going to be a runaway from either side by any stretch of the imagination. And Florida kind of being dead to rights twice on this tournament and pulling it out gives me hope going into this game that I think this Auburn team is a lot better than UConn and Texas Tech were, and like if Florida's playing bad again and we can get out to a lead. This Auburn team is not going to squander a game at the same level that UConn did and Texas Tech did, just because of the talent gap between those three teams when you compare them. So I don't know. I like I said, it could go either.
Did Travis Furious for you?
about Auburn,
Yeah.
Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So,
personally, I would say Florida's gonna win. I'm pretty high on them. I think they've just been battle tested throughout the tournament. They've won 10 in a row. I still think the fact that we talk about them not having played their best basketball potentially, and they have a full week to prepare. I think that definitely helps in their favor. Yeah, I think they're just gonna have to like go into that game. You got to cut off something with them. You either got to cut off the bigs, the way UConn did, or you're gonna have to just cut off Clayton. And Clayton hasn't really been cut off, and the other guards around him are still so good that it's gonna be
but
hard.
he hasn't had
I
Denver Jones guarding him, and I think that's a huge you feel good in any matchup when you have a guy who's one of the best defenders in the nation in Denver Jones out there to guard him, and Denver's bigger than him and can get up in his grill, and he's Denver's not gonna have these lapses and give Clayton these good looks that we've seen him get against some of these teams. I don't think these teams that Florida has played have a defender at the level of Denver Jones to help neutralize Clayton.
well, yeah, I mean the thing is that a lot of these looks that Clayton has hit are not open. Like none of those UConn
They're
ones, like he's fading away, going all other directions. The one he hit it with Texas Tech, he literally just blindly dribbled it back to the 3-point line and faded away and nailed a three there. I mean he's like an NBA guard. That's basically what you're getting yourself into with him. And it doesn't really matter to Florida. Like you can stick Denver Jones on him; they'll just get him in a switch or something. It's not going to be like him just staple gun to him the entire game. So
Well, they've
yeah,
been doing a good job though. Like we saw them do it to Ashworth in that game against Creighton, where they've been doing a really good job using Denver and Chad's a long, physical, athletic defender, and they've been doing a good job keeping using those two to trap, and then if he switches off Denver, then Chad will be there in lockstep to pick him up.
yeah.
So
I mean
we
the
do
other,
have the
you
length
have to
to get
worry
up.
about like Elijah Martin and Richard as well are not of Clayton's status per se, but they still have been there, done that. They can hit shots themselves. So, I'm big on them for that. I'm big on them for the bigs. And, the number one thing probably right now until I hear otherwise is the, Janai Brum health factor. He is as great as he is. He's not going to be good enough to, beat this team with one arm. So I don't know how he's going to be. I don't think they have a chance without him, but that's going to be the number one factor going in. This line is 2.5 now, assuming he plays. Obviously, he's going to play. It's going to look like he's going to play, but yeah, how effective he is, I think that's really the number one question that needs answering before that game. If he's not 100%, then that really changes quite a bit for them going in.
But you have Condon who's also banged up for Florida. So
Sure, yeah,
they have injury issues of their own that
they do. But I do think it's fair to say that Condon is not, to Florida what Janai Brum is to Auburn. And,
certainly.
Yeah, and Auburn just really needs him, and they still have Florida. Just it's going to be hard to see them running out of size just because of what they already have there. The three bigs they rotate in now, or can still get it done there. Hawk was the one who killed Texas Tech when Condon really didn't do much. So yeah, it's all going to come down to Janai's health, and if he's capable of giving them the game he gave them against Michigan State today.
I think in that matchup, I think Florida's got the edge just by their offensive ability. I think Auburn's guards aren't shooting as well down the stretch here, other than the occasional Tahad Pettiford game. If Janai Brooms healthy, fully healthy, I mean, I think it'll come down to the wire. But if not, and he's struggling offensively, it's going to be a struggle for Auburn, especially with a team as versatile as Florida has been. And Florida's not been playing at your A-plus game, so they're due for an A-plus game here in the tournament. They can turn it on at the drop of a hat. You see, I know you talked about Denver Jones. I know a couple of those Clayton hit threes like just like way outside the 3-point line, had draped coverage on him, and he still made the shot. So that's going to be tough. It's tough to guard that, even when you're a great defender. So we'll see how that goes there. But I think Florida wins in this game.
Anything else on that one before we talk Duke Houston?
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, that should be a good one. And I mean, they should both be great games. But thoughts on that one being in the first window there, first game of the night, because they've already decided that's the first game. They're giving Duke Houston the later one.
Oh, they're always going to give Duke the preferential time slot. Like, yeah, I'm not like I mean, are you asking like, am I offended by it or anything?
Yes,
like,
yeah.
No,
You're the number 1 overall seed, getting the.
It's Duke.
Yeah.
It's Duke. Like and I don't blame them. I mean, Duke is always going to be the biggest draw for TV, so like they're going to want to put Duke in like the preferable time slot. I really was. I do like. I was hoping we were the second game, but I understand like why. Just for the fact of like we're gonna be there, so like if we do end up losing, it's gonna suck to have to sit through the second game like after the and it's not like we're not gonna get up and leave if Auburn loses when we spend all this money and all this traveling to go to the Final Four. That would be crazy. So like it's like we're gonna stay for the second game like regardless. It's not like a couple years ago when we went to Birmingham and Auburn lost to Houston.
Yeah,
and like we didn't stay and watch the Alabama who were they Maryland. We didn't stay and watch the Alabama-Maryland game. We're like, fuck this. But that was in Birmingham. It looks like, we're not going to drive 12 hours and pay all this money to, like, get up and leave after Auburn loses. So, like, that part I hate. But, I mean, I understand why Duke is in the primetime time slot there.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
But, yeah, that Houston-Duke game. So, Duke definitely has not seen a defense like this all year. I mean, there's no defense like Houston, but like there's not a lot of these like physical teams with these guys that in the ACC, and they haven't seen a team like that in this tournament because they played two teams in their last two games that don't really defend it well. So like they get a lot of good looks, and Duke's able to impose their will and be the more physical team in their match. And like this is the first game all year that Duke is going to play at a disadvantage where they're not the more physical team. But I do think that Duke's size is just such a problem for whoever they match up with. And like, I don't think Houston has the length that Duke does. And like, that's going to benefit Duke a ton in this matchup where, I mean, we've seen like we were mentioning with playing against Sears earlier, and like taking advantage of the size. And like I said, if they end up playing Tennessee, like there just would have been such a size disparity there. But it's kind of the same with Houston. We're like Houston's not a small team, but they don't have the same length and athleticism I'd say that Duke does. So like they're going to have that advantage against anybody, but they will run into a team that's going to punch them in the mouth. And Duke's a team, well, they haven't been punched in the mouth all year. Like, they haven't seen a team like this. So I do think, I like, Houston's got to come out quick and be physical and getting Duke, like, even if you commit some fouls, like, Houston's got to come out and punch them in the mouth in this game and impose their will and get Duke uncomfortable because they just haven't had to play a game like that. That's how Houston's going to win this game. If Houston comes out early and lets Duke hit some big shots and get the momentum and take advantage of the size discrepancy, I think Houston's going to be in trouble. But if Houston can come out and really punch them in the mouth and put Duke in an uncomfortable situation, then I think that's where this could benefit Houston.
I think this is going to go different than all of Duke's other games in the tournament because they've kind of had – this is the I'd say Houston is a bad matchup for Duke because Duke just likes to run offense. Houston likes to play that controlled pace style. That defensive style. I think like you said, I think Houston's gonna have to come out and go at Cooper Flag, um, go at Duke's guards. I think I've got Houston in a close one. It's going to be a smaller. I don't think Houston's going to let Duke run and shoot their way to a win. I think it's going to be a tough game either way and go down to the wire. But I got Houston in a close one, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I mean it's 4.5 now to Duke, which given what we've seen from Duke, I think that's where that comes from. I don't think either of these teams have seen the version of the other for quite a while. In Duke's case, I don't think the entire season. I mean, Houston is loaded with athletes. They are not going to be like Duke. Probably will not be more athletic than them, but they will be longer, and I think they will be just more sound defensively at certain parts of where they Tennessee was able to or not Tennessee, but Houston was able to get in the lane pretty easily against Tennessee. That is not going to be the case against Duke. The Duke help defense inside is going to cut off quite a bit from Houston. The good news for Houston is they shoot the three really well. So they're a really good 3-point shooting team. So because of that, I think that they're going to be able to always be able to stay in the game. I don't think they are going to get crushed. I mean, they just, since Beast Week, haven't been beaten, and they won 17 in a row. And yeah, I think they, with a week to prepare for Duke, I think they are in pretty good shape. It's hard to say. I don't want to definitively say one of these teams is going to beat the other, but I will say it honestly kind of depends on the whistle. That if Houston's allowed to defend the way they want to defend, then I think I would probably take Houston. If that's not the case, then Duke will beat them. If Houston can't be physical, if they can't kind of impose their style, I don't think it looks great. I don't think it looks great for them already, personally, just because Duke is a much slower team than some of the previous Duke teams. They are not a very high tempo team, and they are pretty comfortable playing a style that Houston plays. I just don't think they're ready for the physicality aspect. I don't think Duke has seen a team as physical as what Houston's about to be with them. So we'll see. Ultimately, I mean, Duke's more talented than them. If you were to do a draft of, top 10 players who are playing between these teams, I don't know how long you go until you get to a Houston player. I'm not sure how long it would take you, but so Duke is a better team on paper, but that's why you play the game. So, and Houston should, if they're able to be physical with them, that could be a big problem for Duke. But so we'll see.
So it sounds like you're both leaning Houston in that one.
I would say I'm leaning Duke now, just because I just think if when the rubber meets the road, they're a deeper team. I think that they have, on an individual level, if enough breaks down, they have kind of more playmakers who can create their own shot, and it's really only Cryer for Houston who can do that. Houston plays really, really good team basketball, but if shit goes sideways on the floor and possessions are breaking down, that's kind of an area that they do not have as many players who can kind of create for themselves. But they shoot really well. I would not be shocked if Houston wins. But I would probably, gun to my head, lean Duke. But we'll see. Hoping for Houston, but yeah.
as just looking at this Houston team, I think they are on like a collision course with Florida. Just the two contrasting styles. Like I want that's the matchup I want to see in the championship. So, but
Well, that kind of gave away the next question I was going to ask both of you, and you gave your answer there, Jacob. But like, what is the national champ? Not like what you think, like predictions, but like what's the national championship you want to see? Like when you're sitting down next Monday night, like what's the game you're? I think no combination of any of these four teams would surprise me. It could go either way. And I think they'd all be great. Like these are going to be great games, and I think like any national championship would be great games. But like, what do you think would be the best game? What's the one you're hoping to see? And Jacob, you kind of gave your answer already, but Matt, what would be yours between these four teams?
I think from a basketball standpoint, I would probably say that if, gosh, that is tough. I would say probably probably Duke Florida would be the most like aesthetically pleasing basketball game you could find. I think that would be like very up and down game because Florida will really want to push it on them. And I think you'll see just NBA players up and down the floor. I think those are the two best teams, and I would say that is the title that probably most people would be hoping for. I don't think there's a like. I would take Houston that game. I think like for us, I don't think it really matters. I mean, Houston is a great team in their own right. They're the best defensive team. They have a team worthy of being national champions. So I guess for me, like the fan aspect of it, I would probably most want to see Florida Houston because I think that would be like just fascinating contrasts and styles playing each other for the title. But I think like from a national intrigue standpoint, I think most people would probably want to see Florida Duke, but yeah, we'll see. Like CBS executives, that's probably the title game they want. Really, probably Duke versus anyone, but yeah, that I would say probably on a personal level, probably Florida Houston. On just a basketball level, I think the offensive stuff that Todd Golden and John Shire would run that game would be a lot of fun, and there'd be a lot of fun matchups in there as well.
So no combination where you want to see Auburn in here. I see. I see.
I think just like Florida, I've been riding them for a while, and I think I mean, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't hate it. I just, again, think that, like, if Janai Brum is not healthy, I do not want Auburn to get into a game with Duke where, like, Cooper Flag just goes unopposed or something against, the one-armed Janai Brum type thing. But, yeah, if Janai's healthy, go for it. Yeah,
I don't know. I will say, like, it's going to sound ridiculous, like, because, I mean, it's all one seeds. Like, they're all great teams. But I do like that. I feel like of all four of these teams, like, Auburn's kind of the one everybody's sleeping on coming into this thing. It feels like everybody's already, from what I've seen, like, penciling Florida in and, like, the Houston Duke. Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like of these four teams, Auburn's I don't know. As crazy as it is being the number one overall seed, like, Bruce is definitely probably going to be feeding them some bullshit about how they're the underdogs all week. So,
yeah, probably. I mean, he would be smart to. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that's off base. I think that's mostly because Janai got hurt. I don't think it has anything else to do outside of that. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely, I would say the Houston fan base and that Houston contingent is probably like the third or like probably the fourth team that people would have, at least on, in terms of discussion topics and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I do feel that as well. I think a lot of people lean more towards Florida here.
No, if Houston wins against Duke or just the Houston fan presence in San Antonio, that's something to consider as well.
all I know is that there's going to be a lot of Duke fans there because, I mean, they got a national fan base.
Yeah.
I can tell, like, because I bought our tickets after we won today, but like I've been keeping up with these tickets for like a while now, like getting ready to buy them, and like so TickPick has like a graph of like how the ticket prices have gone, and it's just kind of like a typical bump, and like right after that Alabama Duke game ended yesterday, went like off the fucking chart, like the prices shot up when Duke punched their ticket there. So like that tells me that Duke fans are going to be showing up there.
I hope there's nothing more than Duke losing. That's all I want out of this Final Four is for Duke to lose.
I would prefer not to play Duke again, like if we're able to get there and get
Can't
past
stand
Florida.
Duke.
But like it also, because what's crazy for Auburn is like we've played all three of these teams already this year, and it's like we beat Houston, we lost to Florida and Duke, but like I feel like Auburn, if we do play Duke, like if we play Houston again, we know what kind of game it's going to be. But if we play Duke, I think Auburn matches up really well with Duke because Auburn is one of the only teams with, I feel like, the size and the length that isn't going to be intimidated by that against Duke. And I feel like Auburn has kind of an advantage as far as that size matchup on the perimeter because Duke's guards and wings they're just so big, and I like Auburn has like the dudes on the dudes on the wings and the guards to match up with Duke in that matchup. And I mean, Auburn already went into Cameron earlier this year and gave them everything they could handle. And I mean, what was that fucking guy, some nobody on the team that hit 6 3-pointers in that
Isaiah
game?
Evans, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That like, so it's like I have in the back of my head, and like I said it after Auburn and Duke played in December. Like, I don't know if I still feel this way, but I was like, we'll see him again in San Antonio, and I just kind of like had that in my head all year from after that game happened in Cameron earlier this year. So like I would I do if we do get past Florida, hopefully, and end up, which is obviously a tall task, but if that does happen and end up playing Duke, like I like how we match up with them, and I like, I feel like we showed them that we can compete with them in Cameron, and then Houston, obviously we already beat earlier this year. I mean, Houston wasn't, that was the second game of the season, so like we've seen this Houston team get on fire since then. But it's like when you play Houston, like you know what kind of game you're getting yourself into. So, but Duke, it's like I do feel like Auburn matches up really well with Duke if we can get past Florida and end up seeing them.
Yeah, it's there are some parallels with I I think that Duke matches up really well with a lot of these teams. I think that Duke would be a really tough matchup just defensively for Auburn, depending on how they would guard that, if they would guard from either just with Malawach himself or just flag with Malawach helping. It's a pretty tough matchup regardless. They're the 2015 tournament, the 2015 season. That's probably the closest parallel you can make to this one. You had, those were, I think you had 6 Ken Pom teams with a 30-plus net rating that year. That was when Kentucky was undefeated. Those 1 seeds were really good that year, but 3 of them made it: Kentucky, Wisconsin, Nova, and then Nova didn't. Or I'm sorry, Kentucky, Wisconsin, and Duke, and then Nova did not hold up their end of the bargain because NC State beat them in the second round. So yeah, that was a really good tournament. Yes,
right.
Yeah, that was the fluke game, and then they came back to win next year. But yeah, earlier in that season, Duke played at Wisconsin in December. They beat them 80-70. They won by 10 there, and then it was kind of that same feel with those teams that they would see each other in the Final Four in the national championship game, and then obviously they did, and Duke won the rematch just as they did the first game. I think that if you are Auburn, if Auburn were to win, I think they would definitely rather see Duke just because there's a familiarity with them. And not that they don't have the familiarity with Houston, but that is a tough team to beat twice in a season. That is just going to be like a miserable team to have to beat twice in Texas. Yeah, that's a lot to ask. It's a lot to ask for them to beat either of those teams, but yeah, I think that it's going to be a miserable task regardless, and whoever wins the national championship certainly will have earned it, no doubt. So, yeah, excited to watch, but all in all, I would probably say it will be Duke, Florida, but we'll see. I'm here for any of these outcomes.
The Turner Sports executives got to be the big winner in all this. They have to be over the moon because these will probably be some of the highest rated Final Four games we've seen in years.
They should be. I mean, just first you get the entire SEC fan base tuned into the first game. There will be a lot of schools like whether watching with interest or hate watching for both games really, and yeah, that late game should be awesome. And they should bring, if they were smart, Jim Nantz should come out of retirement and call that Houston game. Or there should be like an alternate Jim Nantz broadcast where he's just biased as shit towards Houston. So yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
He's got
really
Romo with him watching the Houston game.
Ooh, I don't know, Jim. Look like a charge, Gene. This is the busiest I've seen Gene's territory in this tournament as well. That guy's put to work. Someone tweeted the other day, they're like, I hear from Gene Steratore more than my family. Like, yeah, I'm like, well, that guy's busy as it gets, yeah.
That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Holy
like,
shit.
I hear from Gene Steratore more than my family. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun. As you said, the Turner Sports executives that's a home run. It does not get any better than that for them. So should be fun.
All right. Well, you guys got anything else before we call this thing a wrap? We'll have to figure out. I don't know if we'll do one again. I mean, we kind of just previewed the games here, so I don't know if we'll do another podcast this week before that. But I don't know. Maybe we can jump on and do a little something when I get down to San Antonio. We can do like a Saturday afternoon live from San Antonio show, like outside the stadium or something. That should be pretty fun.
Yeah, we can get Juve on to tell you why there's a 0% chance of Auburn winning a national championship.
Well, bad news for him. There's going to be an SEC team in the national championship game.
Yes, yeah.
No other outcome.
Yeah, nightmare scenario there for Juve. And if Houston loses, Houston's like his cash cow. The Big 12
SEC is going to have a 50-50 shot to win the national championship.
There you go, Karl Ravitch. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. Jacob, you got anything before we end this?
The only thing, I got one parting shot at Tennessee fans. The horrible loss you experienced against Houston. That the one guy that tweeted under Purdue games all season. That one's for you.
The one guy. You know who you are. You son of a bitch.
Robert McVall.
Yeah. There you go.
What a great weekend. I mean, I feel like everybody hates. I don't I guess other than Duke, I don't think any of us like Duke, but like I said, it's not the same level of hate without Coach K.
No,
but Jacob's happy Tennessee lost. I'm happy Alabama lost. Matt, I don't know who you were hoping
a great
to
Final
lose.
Four. Yeah. Well, I was not. Hey, we get 0 Big Ten teams in, so that's good.
There we go.
We did not want that. Yes, that's a good one. We
did not took care of that for you.
Yes, yeah. Shout out to those guys. Yeah, we did not get the 4 SEC teams, so unfortunately, you will not get to see any of the Bama goons on the Riverwalk. So,
God.
Lucky you there. Yeah, you avoid Bama and Tennessee. So there you go. But yeah, all in all, happy to see the 4 best teams play for the title.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we'll call this thing a wrap. We'll figure something out later this week, but the Final Four is set. I'm gonna be fucking on location in San Antonio, Texas this weekend. I'll try to get some content out there from that. Appreciate you guys tonight and all season, man. Like, it's been a fucking fun
Mhm.
ride, and we're down to 4 now. So it's been a hell of a season, and we got 3 more games. And well, no. We got more than 3 because we got the crown tipping off.
Of course,
Did you
yeah.
see
We'll have to do a separate
Fox
crown show.
college basketball on Fox? They tweeted earlier, like college basketball fans going to sleep tonight, and it was like I
Oh
think it was
yeah,
like he was
SpongeBob.
like smile, yeah, SpongeBob with like the fucking the crown. It's like I don't think any college basketball fan. It's like, oh shit, the crown. Like,
Yeah.
anybody got any crown predictions?
I got nothing, man. I'm just surprised Nova's still competing in the crown. And I don't know who's going to coach them still, but yeah,
Have you heard the reason? I heard this
we'll
earlier
see.
this week, by the way. You know the reason the crown even exists is that like the conferences came up with the crown because they're worried like the NCAA will just like completely fold eventually, and they want to
Oh
have the
my God.
crown as like their like built-in event for the conferences to run in case the NCAA folds. So like that's why
Yeah.
they're so like the team so like, you know, teams can accept their invitation to the NIT. Like part of the contract, the teams are not allowed to opt out of the crown. So like
Oh my
you're
gosh.
playing
You're
in the
locked
crown
in.
if you get
Yeah.
invited to the crown.
Yeah.
Like so like yeah, and I
Goodness.
guess it was a leverage from the conferences like for
Wow.
if they separate from the NCAA that they can have their own event that they already have gotten off the ground. So like that's why this tournament even exists, and that's why the TV networks have been promoting it so hard and stuff. Is because like it's basically like their hardball play with the NCAA. Like, oh, you better give us what we want because we got the crown.
No. Jeez. Okay, then. The more you know. There you go.
I guess it's kind of the same, like, because like the college football playoff is the same way. It's not
Yeah.
affiliated with the NCAA,
Yeah. Very true.
but all right, Final Four coming up. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, Sectator Media. Give us a follow at One Shining Recap. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back this weekend to talk some Final Four action.